Get your popcorn for this one, because there's a major lesson to be learned from Evil Dead Rise. It's a late night, I'm feeling good, let's get into it. The psychology of why Evil Dead Rise actually works. So, most horror movies today misunderstand fear. They just don't get it. See, they think fear is like this loud music, quick cuts. I hate that. I hate when they do those quick cuts to try to get that adrenaline reaction out of you. It doesn't work. A lot of movies think horror is about like dark hallways with a creepy smile, some tall figure standing in the background. Maybe that works for like kids and young adults, or not even young adults. I'll say like teenagers. But real fear, the kind that lingers after the movie is done, comes from, in my opinion, a psychological corruption or deception. Because we could really believe that. We could really digest that. We really fear that. And that's why Evil Dead Rise works so much. And no offense, but it's exactly the reason why movies like Passenger can feel empty. Passenger that just came out, it did not hit the spot whatsoever. And that's because Evil Dead Rise doesn't just attack the body. It attacks the idea of safety itself. So let's get into the main character, Ellie. Why was Ellie terrifying? I'll say this. Ellie isn't scary because she looks scary, although her face does have like that edge to it. But she's scary because she used to represent emotional protection for the family. You could see her relationship with her kids. You could see her relationship, how it was with her sister. And that's the key difference. This movie takes the emotional center of the family, the mother, and weaponizes it against the children and the sister on a psychological level. And us watching it, it hits us in that psychological way where we connect with the family. Like, damn, that hurt. Damn, why would you say that? Damn, you really felt that like that? It's very believable. See, monsters and demons in movies like this is one thing, but when your own mother is smiling at you while threatening your life in that loving tone, that's a different kind of spiritual warfare. And this film understands that the human brain is more disturbed by corrupted love than it will ever be physical violence by itself. That's why Ellie's scenes hit so hard. She doesn't just immediately become this like wild screaming demonic figure. No, she uses manipulation. She mocks the family. She taunts them emotionally. She says crazy wild things out her mouth that you would never think your mother would say. And she still talks like a loving mother sometimes, but then it gets twisted. And see, that creates cognitive dissonance. The brain seeing two different conflicting realities at once. The first one is your brain is saying, Mom loves me. But the second is saying, Mom wants to kill me. You see that contradiction? That creates psychological panic. And that's what a lot of movies fail to do. Now let's go into another level of why did the spirit choose Ellie out of everybody? This is something that other horror movies could learn from. This movie, so it's actually smarter than people would give it credit for. See, the Deadites, they don't just want bodies, they want emotional leverage, as you can see in the first and second Evil Dead. See, possessing Ellie gave the evil access to that love that she had for her children and just the overall family dynamic. See, if the demon possessed a random neighbor first, the family might just run out. It doesn't really accomplish what these demonic things, these filthy things want to do. But a mother, yeah, it creates that hesitation with the family. And the hesitation could become deadly. See, the Deadites understand attachment. That's why possession in Evil Dead hits scarier than possession in most other movies. Now, I do want to say they didn't create this. Obviously, we saw this, well, I personally saw this for the first time when my dad showed me The Exorcist. That's the first time I saw that deception. Or you could say like that nasty potty mouth demonic figure. Yeah. But I feel like this movie took it and ran with it and took it to a whole different level. And it's not just random. It's not a strategic type of thing. This spirit in Evil Dead, it's almost like it thinks to itself, what hurts people more than death? And the answer is watching love become evil. Now that's really dark, and honestly, that's kind of genius on the writers to take that same thing that kind of made Exorcist scary, but take it to like a new modern level with it. Now, let's talk about setting the stage for horror. Evil Dead Rise understood that it understood something that a lot of, I would say, modern horror movies honestly forgets all the time. See, the mood starts before the horror appears. See, now, the earthquake scene at the beginning of the movie, it wasn't just there to be some kind of spectacle. It set the stage. It damaged the building, it knocked out stability, it created chaos, it separated people psychologically from the outside world and physically. It trapped them. And see, that's such an underrated ingredient in horror. See, the best horror films force characters, it forces them to deal with the nightmare that's right in front of them. They can't escape it. They can't hop in the car and drive away from it. They can't save it for the morning. No, they're stuck with it and they have to face it. That changes everything psychologically. And that earthquake trapped them in that building to where they had to deal with this. Just like Dawn of the Dead trapped them in that mall and they had to deal with it. Yeah. So, it's the same reason why you would see like an island horror work, like something on the island, something on a boat, a crazy a crazy snowstorm, and like, for example, The Shining. See how it traps them and forces you to deal with the threat? I like that. Now, the environment itself, when you write it to be set in a setting like this with the earthquake trapping them in that apartment, or The Shining, like how that snowstorm trapped them in the hotel, the environment itself becomes part of the attack. And so once that earthquake damaged that building, it was over. Straight up. Power outages, broken elevators, you get the point. It also creates believability, and I gotta say, because this was bothering me after I saw Passenger. I wanted to know why I couldn't connect with it. And I had to really think about what that movie was missing. Believability. Now check this out. Believability, it all comes down to psychology. When I was watching Passenger, yeah, I get it. There's this demonic thing out there in the woods, and if you stop, it could jump in your car. It's a really cool premise. But the way it happened, there was no build-up, there was no connection that made me believe that this monster would really do it. There was nothing tangible that brought it alive, or there was no backstory, nothing. But you see, now let's even talk about a movie like Jeepers Creepers. That monster itself is not believable to me. I don't buy that. Like this bat-like ugly figure that could walk like a man but fly like a bat. But you know why Jeepers Creepers really hooked me in is because the first time they saw that creature standing like a man with that hat on and that trench coat, that dark trench coat, dropping a body into that pipe and then looking back at them, it was mimicking how a human would dispose of a body. So that caught my attention and really hooked me, like, why is that thing mimicking us? Now that hit the central nervous system the same way how a skinwalker might, or an alien pretend to be human, like that deception. It comes down to that deception, which is something I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So yeah, Evil Dead Rise and movies like that, they really hit that central nervous system in a way that makes you believe that if this did happen, this is how it would happen. It can help you suspend your disbelief just enough to ride with the story, and then once it connects you to the characters, it's over. So there's a major lesson to be learned from Evil Dead Rise, and I love talking about these movies. Please subscribe, like, follow. I said like and follow. Please like, subscribe, share, because I'm really building a community here. Shout out to everyone who's been showing love and dropping comments, because I'm not a critic. I'm your friend in the basement talking about movies from a real psychological level. That's who I am. I want you to look at me like that friend in your basement, that maybe you just saw a movie that other people might not get, or they might not understand, or maybe everybody does, but you just want that person who you can run it by. Or I want people to drop their perception, like your perspective. I want you to drop your perspective on this movie or horror movies in general. What makes it really scary? Why do some horrors get it and others just totally like drop the ball? What makes a simple movie super scary, but one that's really done with complicated effects and everything not so scary? Let's talk about the psychology of horror. Are you a fan of this? Are you a fan of horror? And why do you feel like the stuff that you're a fan of is actually scary? Drop a comment. I'll be there, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for tuning in.